standing for Jesus, standing in the gap for family and friends, standing in the gap, one love for all, so we all can make it in. Standing in the gap, standing for Jesus, standing in the gap for family and friends, standing in the gap, one love for all, so we all can make it in. Studying to show ourselves approved, rightly dividing the word of truth, increasing our faith to envision our freedom, so we all can glorify our God.
Our ministry too is to keep you informed of current events, and the reason for that is because Jesus gave us a great commission: spread the gospel throughout the world. We can only spread it in our time, right? But we have to know what's going on in our time. A lot of people don't. They just sit back and let things happen, don't know what's going on, don't even realize they're supposed to be spreading the word, the gospel, and don't know where to spread and all that. But so we want to keep you informed on that. And Marvel is taking over this section of the ministry called the Gap News, and she, as we always say, there's so much going on that she has trouble picking out what's the best thing to do, but she's picked something out for us. And so Marvel, take it over.
You're right. So much is going on. I mean, it makes your head spin how many things are happening in this world. But one of the things that's going on is somebody called Elon Musk, and how he's kind of taken over the government. And a lot of people may not know a lot of background on him, but something very interesting happened this week. And so I'm calling this Gap News Demoted.
Donald Trump always said he wanted to drain the swamp.
We're going to clean out the Washington swamp. I never knew it was this deep.
It's a catchphrase to describe what he claims afflicts Washington. But unlike the beginning of his first term, this time he has taken swift action. And he knows just the guy to help.
Elon Musk, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it.
The Trump administration is allowing a private citizen to kind of have the keys and to do all of this while Congress is basically letting it happen and the judiciary is struggling to keep up.
We do need to delete entire agencies.
To do this, Elon Musk and members of his so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, have been embedding themselves across the United States government.
Department of Education, Department of Energy, USAID, Department of the Treasury, Department of Defense, Social Security, you name it, they are there.
Musk has kind of been approaching all of this with a lot of glee. He's joked about being the Bobs from Office Space.
What would you say you do here?
The idea of cutting the federal budget, I think, is something that a lot of people, left or right, can get on board with.
The people voted for major government reform.
But there's a lot of question about whether Elon actually knows the ins and outs of these agencies enough to make these cuts, or if he's simply going in with a chainsaw.
I actually just call myself a humble tech support here.
This feels a lot like private equity going into a new company. You look at the books, you sell distressed assets.
This disruption is all part of the plan. This is how Elon Musk runs his companies.
But the federal government is going to run and operate in a very different way than a rocket ship company.
So what are the consequences, intended or otherwise, of trying to turn the federal government into a startup? And is that what Trump and Musk really want? It all started with a meme.
Well, the word Doge comes from this internet meme that Elon Musk is quite fond of. And so when he proposed this idea for a government cost-cutting agency, he created DOGE as a backronym for Department of Government Efficiency.
DOGE has effectively replaced an agency called the U.S. Digital Service, set up by President Barack Obama to modernize how the government uses technology. Now, Elon Musk says he wants to do that and a whole lot more.
Musk's whole theory is that we have inflation and high interest rates because the government overspent and we're in a deficit. So if they can really rein in spending and drop interest rates, that will help American consumers.
If we don't do this, America will go bankrupt.
They're looking for examples of what they call waste, fraud, and abuse.
Musk promised when he was on the campaign $2 trillion in budget cuts, at least.
I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
He later backtracked to say we've got a good shot at getting $1 trillion in cuts. But even that would be quite a feat. Here's the problem. While the national debt has been rising for years, interest payments on US debt have now climbed to its highest level since the 1990s. In the last fiscal year, the US Treasury Department spent $882 billion on net interest payments, roughly $2.4 billion a day. So far, DOGE's cuts don't hold a candle to those kinds of numbers.
When you look at what he's actually cutting, it is not much.
DOGE started to put online a list of canceled contracts, canceled leases that they say ended up somewhere in the neighborhood of $55 billion, but it didn't take long for people to really look at the details of what they said were cut and find duplicate cuts, typos, miscalculations.
In one line item, DOGE mistakenly reported an $8 billion savings from a canceled contract, which turned out to be an $8 million, not billion-dollar contract. With Musk at the top, he has mainly young men with tech backgrounds under him, but there are also some longtime Musk loyalists, like Steve Davis. Their approach has been to disregard norms and in some cases, allegedly laws, about how federal agencies operate, especially regarding personnel and data.
Anybody unhappy with it? If you are, well, throw them out of here.
DOGE came in without really a very clear understanding of who works for the federal government, where, and what they do.
Both Trump and Musk have cited false allegations of fraud and waste to justify mass firings across federal agencies. Some hasty moves have already led to embarrassing and potentially dangerous reversals.
DOGE helped to fire or lay off roughly 350 people at the National Nuclear Security Administration. A lot of those people have very important jobs safeguarding the nation's nuclear weapons, and now some of them are being hired back.
We will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes.
So far, tens of thousands of federal employees have either been fired, resigned, or taken Musk's buyout offer since Trump's inauguration, a number that's expected to keep climbing in the weeks and months ahead.
Elon Musk has a playbook for starting and turning around companies, and that playbook involves massive layoffs and essentially just sowing chaos within the workforce.
In Silicon Valley, you always hear move fast and break things, and sometimes things do break. In his companies, Musk has often made decisions and then had to overcorrect. You've seen a lot of lawsuits on behalf of federal workers filed by unions and other advocacy groups, but DOGE is moving faster than them.
Despite the judiciary's slow-moving nature, some cuts have already been challenged as illegal, unconstitutional, or a breach of contract, and more lawsuits are sure to follow.
Rest Vote and the OMB and Project 2025 and then DOGE, they're sort of running on parallel tracks, but I think they have similar missions.
The overall goal here with the DOGE team is to help address the enormous deficit. It's not an optional thing, it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here.
Despite Musk's purported benevolence, he and his multi-billion-dollar empire stand to gain a great deal from paring down the federal government, and the potential for conflicts of interest are everywhere.
SpaceX is regulated by the FAA, for example, and is a huge government contractor at both the Pentagon and with NASA.
Is he really the best person to decide if, say, Boeing or Lockheed Martin, which are both SpaceX competitors, should have contracts?
He owns a car company, Tesla, that the National Highway Safety Traffic Administration regulates to make sure that these autonomous vehicles that he's trying to develop don't run over people.
At least 5 inspector generals that were looking into Elon Musk's companies were fired by the Trump-Musk administration. These inspector generals, who are independent, protected by law.
Musk claims that his transparency allows the public to call out any of these conflicts.
It's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop.
But the official White House response leaves it up to him.
The president was already asked and answered this question this week, and he said if Elon Musk comes across a conflict of interest with the contracts and the funding that DOGE is overseeing, then Elon will excuse himself from those contracts.
The fact that the White House is saying that he will self-police any potential conflicts is a conflict in and of itself.
Just last year, Elon Musk was promised $3 billion from close to 100 contracts with the federal government.
While first it was Twitter employees and then federal civil servants, America as a whole is now facing that fork in the road.
The debris from the SpaceX Starship streaked across the night sky above the Bahamas. Rocket enthusiasts who had gathered to watch the spacecraft lift off saw it explode just minutes later.
The Starship appeared right where it was supposed to be, kind of rising up. Initially, it had this beautiful big they call it a jellyfish umbrella, where the sun reflects off the exhaust fumes, and everything looked normal. And then it maybe got about 20 degrees above the horizon and, turned into a huge ball of fire.
Video footage shows the 123-meter-long rocket make an initial clean ascent from Texas before things started to go wrong. This is the second consecutive failure for the company's spaceship program so far this year. In January, a spacecraft exploded over Turks and Caicos, 8 minutes after liftoff. In a social media post, SpaceX's engineers say they plan to learn from their latest failed mission. But this is a blow to owner Elon Musk's ambitious rocket program. The Starship spacecraft is designed for travel to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. Musk has become a close advisor to US President Donald Trump, who recently reminded Congress of his own space ambitions.
We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we're going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond.
If you just look at the news and what he's doing politically, it's been fantastic for him because he is getting more powerful every day, it seems. But yeah, his companies are not doing well at all. Let's look at Tesla. Obviously, his most important, his biggest company, and the one where most of his wealth is based into. Tesla isn't doing good at all. EV sales, electric vehicle sales, are actually up around the world, but Tesla sales are down. And Tesla, of course, was the #1 brand in that sector for a long time.
And we begin with a story that has really striking revelations, and it's from inside the Trump cabinet meeting. And this is something where we're going to learn a lot in the next couple of moments. You may have heard a little bit about it, but I'm going to go through the evidence, the facts here, because it is exactly what this Trump White House and a lot of what Elon Musk is up to. It paints a picture of it in a way that's different from what we've heard in public, from all of the usual PR and the political press conferences and the efforts to tell a certain story. We're now going to go tonight together behind the scenes. This is reporting that shows what many would call a dysfunctional White House, and you'll see why. People at war with themselves and each other over the efforts to basically dismantle large parts of the federal government by someone who doesn't run the federal government, wasn't elected to the position, Elon Musk, and clashing with the very people who, of course, the president also picked to be in charge of these departments. And we often draw on different reporting around here. You know that from watching the news, right? We mention different stories. This is from the New York Times. Credit to their reporters, their journalists getting this story out. And it is a bombshell. The Times reports that Musk basically ended up in a clash, a conflict with much of the cabinet. And that was Thursday this week. And laced into these other officials, some of whom are important, right? If you're picked to run the State Department, you are a pretty important official within the government. And just to put it clearly, we are talking right now about an unelected billionaire sitting in on these important meetings and going at people in very intense terms. And the substance matters as well as, quite frankly, the emotion and the gossip of this, because it's all part of how this government is being run. Musk going at Secretary of State Rubio, according to the New York Times, basically saying that Rubio was not firing anybody. Quote, "You have fired nobody." And Rubio responds, "What about the more than 1,500 State Department officials who took early retirement in buyouts? Didn't they count as layoffs?" Rubio asking then sarcastically if Musk wanted him to rehire all those people just so he could make a show of firing them again. These are two people at odds over the department that Rubio runs, and the subtext there is about who is being honest or accurate and who is just trying to put on a show. Musk then, the Times reports, was, quote, unimpressed and told Rubio actually he was the show, that he was, quote, good on TV. The subtext, the Times says, being that he was not good for much else. And let's be clear, both of these men have risen in their careers through some aspect of public show. Rubio ran for president. Musk was on the campaign trail. He's made himself into a big deal out in public, but that's how they deride each other in private, basically saying, you're not for real. No, you're not for real. No, you just do it on TV. Here we are talking about it on TV. Now, the Times reports the meeting was actually hastily scheduled because Trump's cabinet members, again, the most important people he's picked to run the agencies, had reached a kind of breaking point about what they call Elon Musk's chainsaw approach here to the cuts. And the meeting was in the cabinet room. The president was presiding, 20 officials attending. Then the Veterans Affairs Secretary, Doug Collins, using this opportunity to go after the way Musk has fired veterans and officials who work at the VA. We heard from one this week, for example. And what's interesting here, as you're going to see, is the dissent, the concern is internal. It's not just people protesting or people who've been ousted from the government. This is Trump's pick for the VA, saying Musk should not wield a blunt instrument and cleave off everyone from Veterans Affairs. They need to be strategic. Then you have Sean Duffy, who runs transportation, also going at Musk. What am I supposed to do, Mr. Duffy says, according to the Times report here. I have multiple plane crashes to deal with now. And your people want me to fire air traffic controllers? The question kind of makes the argument that sounds absurd, dangerous even. And Musk then responds to that logical sounding question and says, well, Duffy's basically a liar. Quote, Mr. Musk told Mr. Duffy his assertion was a lie. And throughout all of this, the Times reports that a president who, of course, used to do pretend boardroom meetings on his reality show, Trump sat back in his chair, arms folded as if he were watching a tennis match. The meeting ended. Trump said that he does support Musk's ongoing cuts, but that cabinet members are supposed to run their agencies. And he said something that is actually a restoration of what the rules are supposed to be, and it is a sign of dysfunction, and many experts would say failure, that the president, with all his power, had to say this out loud. I really want to emphasize this because it's extraordinary reporting. That's why we're leaving it up on the screen. The Times with quite a scoop here. Quote, from now on, Trump said, the secretaries would be in charge. The Musk team would only advise. Translation? That is a demotion for Elon Musk.
Demoted. So did y'all know all of that about Elon Musk? That, you know, of course, he's a tech billionaire. He actually got his company Tesla launched through a big multi-million, I think it was $30 million or $40 million grant that he got from the U.S. government. But of course, Tesla, it was the number one electric vehicle in the world. And then he started buying up other companies. He decided he wanted to buy Twitter. He bought Twitter and just went in there and just fired half the people. And then said, well, here we are at a fork in the road. If you're going to stick with us. Another 1,000 of them quit. But he's taking that same approach with the United States government, which, first of all, he knows nothing about. He doesn't know what these agencies do. He doesn't know what the people who work in these agencies do. And hence we see a lot of these really stupid mistakes, like firing the people that protect our nuclear weapons. But anyway, what do you think, honey?
Well, I mean, when I look at that, I look at a bunch of fools, clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right, and here we are in the middle having to deal with it. They don't know what they're doing. They're messing up stuff. They're destroying people's lives and all that. And that brings me right back to Micah 6:8, which requires of us. And some people think Micah 6:8 just is directed at governments. And regardless of that, it asks you to do justice. There's no justice in what they're doing. They're just doing things because they think they're powerful enough to do it. And to love mercy, there's no mercy on that. I mean, they want to cut Social Security and Medicare and cut people's jobs and do away with vaccines and all that kind of mess. And what they're doing in Ukraine surely is just crazy. But Mike also says, walk humbly with God, meaning God's in control. He's got everything. He just asks you to walk with him. You don't have a better plan than God. And God doesn't need your advice. So, that's my take on it. It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
There's no godliness in any of these actions. I didn't talk about Ukraine, but that's another horrific thing that this administration is doing right now. But back to Musk. So his space company went down. We've got some people working in our house today, so I had to jump off camera for a minute. But the space company, the last 2 rockets blew up, just blew up out of the sky. Now, these are the things that are supposed to be putting up the Starlink satellites. They're supposed to be sending us to Mars. You want to take a ride on that to Mars, y'all?
I'm not getting on that thing.
You're not getting on that thing? Oh, no. But, and now people are protesting Tesla. As a matter of fact, you saw in the video, electric vehicle sales are up, Tesla sales are down, because they had one of the videos said somebody had a Tesla and it had a bumper sticker on there that said, I bought this before Elon went crazy. But anyway, does anybody else have anything to say? I'm just looking to see if we have any. Yeah, there's a couple here. I'm going to just get them up here. So, Sister Michelle said it was very informative. Thanks. People don't know about this guy, Musk. They don't know all of his background. And then Sister Monica said, amen to ignorance and all the lies. It's full of lies. But I really like the part where they said, Trump is sitting there watching, just like he used to watch on his fake TV show, on his reality show. And all I got to say is, I can't wait until he says, you're fired.
I think it should be, we say, you're fired.
We say, you're fired. That's better. I like that better.
Down at the voting booth.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank God that God's still in control and
He's
on the
still in
throne.
control.
This is just madness. It's actually madness. Taking center stage. All right. Thanks for the Gap News.
One more comment here.
All right.
If I can get it. Here we go. Those 2 men are making us the most vulnerable country ever. And the rest of the Republicans are allowing it. That. You know what, Sister Michelle? Right on. Right on. I know what you meant. They have made us. I got you. Okay, so
one thing you don't see in all that mess that they're doing is God.
no godliness.
I mean, you don't see anything in there
about
godliness. That. They're on their own, and that was revealed or prophesied in the Bible, that men would just be lovers of themselves.
Those 2, that's exactly what they are. They both love themselves. They love their power. Sister Yolanda said that is so sad, and it really is. But what makes it so sad is that they're doing this. The people who are supposed to be in power, the co-equal branch, the Congress is like sitting there on their hands. They're not doing anything. And it's a terrible, terrible situation.
We want to thank Sister Yolanda and Sister Monica and Sister Michelle for responding and giving us their insight, and it's very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you have news.
All right. Okay.
Now you know where to spread the gospel. Say a prayer for all those people whose lives and careers are being disrupted, and those people who may be contracting measles, and say a prayer for the people over in Ukraine, because all that is betrayal, and it's going to cost them lives.
It's already cost them lives.
It's going to cost more.
That's true.
So, all right. Well, let's move on. You know, Trump and his MAGAs are talking about doing away with Black History Month, and you know, we have decided that okay.
Okay, but so hold on a second. Sister Elaine is here, and she has something. I'm just trying to get her. I don't know what happened to her. It seems like I just lost her. Okay.
You want to do? Try to get
I can
back?
hear you here. Let's let you just talk. Yeah, I lost the screen, but okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, just talk because I'm gonna have to get the screen back.
Okay, go ahead. Elon Musk is invited to the White House by Trump. Anybody else who gets in any distance or any closeness to the White House, how did he get clearance to all of that information he is obtaining? In any distance.
Well, he has no security clearance. Donald Trump just said, let him have it.
But we can't get near the White House due to barricades and everything. Well, he has no security clearance. Donald Trump just said, let him have it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just invited in and had a right to go.
Also, huh?
Oh yeah, sitting on his shoulders. That's crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you for your comments, and I'll have to get you back on the screen. Right when you started talking, the screen went away, so I'll get you back. Okay, back to you. Back to you, honey.